Humans aren't born out of laying around on their asses. We've been born out of conquering a world. We're the dominant species. We built all this. We're powerful, and we're beautiful, and we're ready to build the next level of civilization in God's plan. But you must stop bowing to those who want to make you a victim. You must become the victor. If you love God and you want to build a pro-human future, then you are an enemy of the New World Order and Satanism. They want us shut down because we have the Spirit. I'm jacked into the source. I know the secret, and I want to see you empowered. But you have to believe in yourself first. This is the truth, and everyone knows it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, there are some people on the internet right now that are big mad at Asmongold. They're furious. Now, what could he have possibly said to engender this level of ire and outrage? Well, I'll read you his quote. Every trans kid is actually a victim of a parent with a mental illness. If you have a kid that's like pre-puberty and they're trans, your parents have a mental illness. I agree with this. I agree with this completely. I think that this is a huge part of the problem. But I actually think it's more than just parents with mental illness. I think that if you have a kid that's trans, you've been conditioned by probably your school board, people in your area, neighbors, a social contagion. It's put out there as normal by Democrats. It's enshrined into law internationally so that if you misgender somebody, you can actually be arrested and go to jail. We see this in the UK. This is a major deal. And it's been something that people like myself have been pushing back on for a number of different reasons. But it's actually nice to see somebody like Asmongold, of all people, on Twitch come out and make a statement like this. Now, of course, he doesn't get all the way there, but it's progress. It's progress in the right direction. A year ago, he never would have said this. A year ago, he never would have said this. He may have thought it, but he never would have said it. Not in this way, not this directly, not this forthcoming.
This is what I said. You can be groomed for sure. No, and that's a good point, right? Is that that's why I said as an adult, is because if you're a kid and you get fed a lot of propaganda and messaging, I feel like every trans kid is actually a victim of a parent with a mental illness. Yeah. That's what I believe. And so I really, and this is you got a kid that's 17, right? I mean, it's a little bit more, it's not really as definitive. But if you have a kid that's pre-puberty and they're trans, your parents have a mental illness.
That's true.
And this is something that a lot of people need to hear.
Yeah.
It is. It's something a lot of people need to hear. In school, yeah, no, you're right. And it could also be a school. And it's not always the parents. Sometimes it's a school too.
Well, yeah, it's a social contagion. It couldn't or doesn't have to be necessarily the parents. It could be one parent. We saw that horrific incident in Texas. But the court system has been affirming this. Doctors and medical professionals have been affirming this. So you've got the government, you've got the medical cartel all affirming this. Their neighbors are affirming, oh, you don't want to be one of those Republicans. You don't want to be a bigot, do you? You have social pressure. You have it in all the movies and video games and comic books. There has been a relentless campaign to promote this absolute satanic mentally ill filth that harms children. And the future is not going to be kind to this time period. They're going to look back at us with horror, the way that we look back in the past at mobile lobotomies. These so-called enlightened people, the people in the Enlightenment age, they allowed for the castration and mutilation of their children. It's so insane when you really think about what this is and what it represents. And it is inhumanly cruel that this has been allowed to fester and exist as long as it has. And thankfully, there's pushback on it. And this is, I'd say, a 90-10 issue, where a majority of the people agree with me that this sort of stuff should not be allowed. That you should not push this on kids. You shouldn't teach this to kids. That this should not be the thing that is promoted in school as the normal, optimal path for somebody.
But there's an adult with a mental illness in your life. That's a great point. And so anyway, a lot of people were posting this trying to act like, oh, wow, like, you know, we're going to try to get him in trouble for this shit. Like, I'm sorry, but this is like a 90-10 issue. This is like beyond even 80-20. Like, everybody fucking thinks this. The only reason that nobody's saying it is because people are afraid of saying it. The fact is that, like, I don't really give a shit because, like, I mean, fuck, like, I people hate me all the time, right? So, like, there's nothing to lose. But the fact is that it's a 99-1. It's an extreme situation, and especially like we're talking about, like, you know, I said like pre-puberty, and this is really the logic, right? Is that so pretty much you have like the idea of being trans is tied to gender roles, but when you don't even understand what your own gender role is because it doesn't exist because you're pre-puberty and you haven't even, you know, gone through any sort of like sexual development at all, how could you know that how could you know that this is not correlated to what you want? Well, guess
He's absolutely right. I mean, it is a form of mental illness to look at your child and think that, oh, they just have the world's wisdom. If only we could be more like them. And you look at your kid and he's like, I'm gonna be an astronaut. And it's not like, oh, I'm interested in things that have to do with space, because a lot of young boys are. But it's more so, I'm going to build a rocket ship out of cardboard and I'm going to go to the moon right now. Like, you can play into that. You can have fun with that. Like, hey, you know, sport, we're going to build a rocket in the backyard. But if your kid actually is like, Dad, I need to get to space. I am an astronaut. I'm going to go to a NASA rocket. I'm going to sneak it. Like, eventually you're like, okay, no. Like, you have to actually be a parent. You're not actually an astronaut. Little Jimmy, you could be one day, but you're not right now. But these people go, no, you are that gender. Oh my God. And this is especially a problem with women. This is especially a problem with women. You know, some people call it Munchausen's. But they have this thing where they want to go to their social clubs and their social groups and be like, oh, little Jimmy he's finally discovered himself. I've allowed him to read his zodiac sign, and they have determined that they identify with a female astrological sign, and they're going to change their gender. Now Samuel is now Samantha. Like, this is a major social contagion. It is mental illness. It is a problem, and it needs to be done away with in the harshest and most strict way possible, to set an example to other people not to let this sort of stuff happen again, especially targeting children.
Guess what? The reason why is because you have an adult whispering in your ear telling you it's not. And that's really the reason. Trans is not the same as attraction. No, but in order to understand gender roles, you have to understand what gender is. And do kids understand that? No, they don't. So how could they understand that they're not a gender if they don't even have a full understanding on what gender is? How does that work? Oh, wait a minute. I know how it works. It's because they're getting fed weird shit by adults. That's the reason why. True. That's how it is. Most adults anymore. Yeah, you seen the Fleek video? I'm going to watch it later on. I haven't gotten around to it, but we're going to watch it. Don't worry about it. Leave the kids alone. I know. It's crazy. It's almost like people who want to groom kids will try to put themselves around kids. It almost is. I don't really make that correlation. And the funny thing is that people said that what I said was transphobic. Do you know what? You want to know the real people that I think are transphobic? Or the ones pushing this stuff.
Right.
Because this is the kind of stuff that's going to alienate average people against trans people that just want to live their lives as adults as the other gender.
Well, see, no. And that's where we disagree, Asman. I know that you may have people in your personal life that you talk to that you're like, oh, this is a trans person who's normal. And that's great. I do think that's great. I do think there are individual trans people that are okay. But the vast majority of them, in fact, I would say every single one of them within these communities that are public, are absolutely terrible. They are just absolutely terrible. And I've experienced and seen enough of what they do and how they talk and how they operate to understand that this is not an 80-20 issue where 80% of them are good and 20% of them are just agitators. This is a 95-5 issue where 95% of them, the vast majority of them, are the type of people to jump in on, showing hate towards an artist or going after, I was going to say RFK, but J.K. Rowling, promoting this sort, like Keffels, for example. Keffels is a great example. Keffels had an entire community of people, and where was the trans pushback to Keffels? And my thing is, no, you are not responsible for what your group does. You are not responsible for what your group does. But at a certain point, you don't get to claim, well, I'm part of this group, but I don't bear any responsibility. Oh, I just joined ISIS for the cupcakes and because I wanted a wife. Like, you have to be aware of the group that you're a part of now. And by the way, also, I reject in its entirety the declaration that the reason that the suicide ideation within the trans community is due to social influences and people that are just unwilling to accept their lifestyle. I think that is insane. I think that is morally retarded. I mean, because obviously you can't put that on other people. That you don't affirm this mental illness, so it's absolutely wrong. The reason why these people are ending their life is because they're being affirmed. It may sound crazy, but it's true. Instead of getting the proper therapy that's needed, getting on medication that would help them with their actual issue, they're being affirmed. They're being sold the lie, now apparently from the age of 3, that if you undergo all this stuff, if you sterilize yourself, if you basically put yourself out of the gene pool, then eventually you're going to feel like the gender to which you think you are. And when these people realize that they've been lied to, and now they have a bunch of medical debt, and they don't feel like the gender, and they're not accepted by anyone because they're not the gender to which they claim to be, and it is insane to expect society to accept them in that way, they look at it and go, I have this medical bills, I feel terrible, I'm not the gender, I've ended my bloodline, I'm an embarrassment to my family. They look at all this stuff, and they make this horrific choice. And if it were up to me, I would outlaw transgenderism tomorrow. I would say it's illegal, and anyone promoting it is going to send it to El Salvador. Because at the end of the day, the one that this hurts the most are trans people. Because if they got the medication, if they got the help to allow them to be normal, if they got the medication, if they got the help, if they were allowed to come to terms with the fact that you're not the opposite gender, you may be more feminine as a man, you may be more masculine as a woman, but you're not the opposite gender. You don't have a different pronoun. Get them away from these other freaks in these groups that want to virtue signal off of them. Basically break up this mentally ill alphabet cartel and try to get them some actual help. That's what I would do. Try to get them out of these groups. Oh, we need to affirm this. Get all these Karens out, all these loud, obnoxious white women and loud, obnoxious black women. Get all these people out of there and have some things in place to provide some actual, honest to goodness help for these people.
This is the kind of stuff that radicalizes people. So, in fact, in a lot of ways, by me saying this, I'm actually trying to help trans people and say, listen, this is not something that people want. This is not something people believe in. Stop trying to get behind this cause and stop pushing this, because if you do, you're going to ruin the whole thing. And that's what's already happening. So it's a soapboxing. It is. And, I view myself as an inoculation, like people hear a little bit of something they don't like, and hopefully they're going to be better off in the long term because of it. But the fact is that, this is a losing proposition. It's a losing argument. People don't agree with this. Most people think it's gross. And honestly, if you go and you do this, you're going to have a lot of problems with a lot of people. All transphobes will be banned. No transphobes will be unbanned. They did this on an anonymous account because they didn't want to get held accountable for which individual person did it. And that's number one. Number two, well, I'm here that I should soapbox a little on my personal pet peeve is the performative ally, someone who wants the medal, someone who wants to be called tolerant but refuses to do the work. You're talking about people that refuse to do the work. You're moderating a subreddit.
Yeah, there is nothing more pathetic than a Reddit moderator that thinks that they're some kind of hero. It genuinely is the most pathetic of creatures. Like, you get the most tiny, insignificant amount of power and you let it go to your head and you become an authoritarian. It's the saddest thing. Honestly, if I were dictator for a day, I'd round up all these Reddit moderators and I'd send them to El Salvador. Get them out. Just get them out. Get all of these freaks and these mentally ill perverts and deviants. Get them out. Get these people. Well, actually, I banned you because no, you're gone. I banned you from the country, from your citizenship. Go to El Salvador. Get in the prison.
How can you even say this? Like, you want to talk about performative ally, and you're talking down on people as a moderator for a subreddit? Are you kidding me? What the fuck are you talking about?
That's crazy.
Look in the goddamn mirror.
Yeah.
It's amazing. We shouldn't let medical professionals decide what children are allowed to get. That decision is up to layman bigots. I love this. Someone who wants to be as nice of a person, but who still wants to make that genocidal comment about how there are no trans. It's a genocidal comment that there are no trans kids.
Straight to El Salvador.
Bro, 10 years from now, genocide is going to be getting the wrong food whenever you get a fucking order at McDonald's. God, bro, they are watering this shit down so hard. They are watering this down. Like, this is genocidal comment. What are we even talking about? Yep. Like, this is crazy. How do you do this? Yes. Oh my God. Genociders in chat. This is crazy. We shouldn't let medical professionals decide the treatment that children are allowed to get, with decisions up to layman bigots. You know what layman bigots is? There's another term for that in this context. It's called the parents. But no, if you post transphobic language, I'll ban you. Because you are worse than an open bigot. You want the accolades. Be very clear. Gender identity develops throughout the ages of 3 to 5. Gender identity develops between the ages of 3 to 5. Everybody knows that's not true.
Everyone knows that that's not true. And these people push this over and over, again and again, and then wonder why people despise their very existence. This is something that is common within the trans community. And if the trans community wants to rehabilitate its image, it's going to have a lot of work to do to make sure that people like this are no longer representing them and discussing issues on, quote-unquote, their behalf. Now, you may think that's unfair. You may think that's not fair. Well, the trans people shouldn't have to. Well, you have these people out there that are pushing this stuff, and there's no pushback. There's no, oh, here's the good side of the trans community. No. It's all this. And that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And so we look at the problem as it is. And I think this is a 90-10, 95-5 issue within the trans community. That most people are like this, or keffals, or people that are mentally ill and have some sort of issues. Now, that doesn't mean that you treat the 5% worse because of these people, but you have to understand that you're part of the same group. You're part of the same group. And you got a lot of people within your group that are absolutely terrible. But what I will tell you is that on this channel, what I believe is, if I were to meet a trans person in real life, if I were to go to an event or something and meet a trans person, I would greet them politely. I don't think rudeness is the answer. I don't think rudeness is the answer. I know I talked about, putting people in jail. But just normal trans people, normal. Now I'm doing it. There's nothing normal about transgenderism. There's nothing normal about the LGBT community. It's not equal to a nuclear family. It's not. Any attempt to push that is madness and stupidity. But I would at least treat them with respect if they were respectful. If they came up and said, "Yeah, hey, I disagree with you on this and this," and were polite and stuff. But unfortunately, the majority of people, at least from my experience, seem to be the type of person that would yell TERF at you, which is crazy because I'm not a radical feminist. But they would yell at you, they would scream at you, they would want to destroy your life and get you canceled because you played Hogwarts Legacy on stream.
Yeah, everybody knows that. You can't fully understand what it means to be a male or a female until you are at least a teenager, because you haven't even gone through puberty. I just don't understand how somebody can even say this, right? I mean, like, that comment made me sick. Well, the reason why is because these people think this is normal. What medical treatment a child can have is between them, the parents, and the medical professionals treating them. No, it's not. It's absolutely not. There are a lot of things that a child can't consent to, even with parental consent, and that's a good thing. Think about how many parents would sign their kids up for disgusting things, but we have laws against it that protect the children because it's for the greater good.
He's right. Yeah, he's right. People say, "Oh, the parents should have the ultimate choice." On most things, I agree. But there are certain things that I think that the state should absolutely step in on. Like, for example, if you've got a family and they wanna let their infant smoke weed, or they want to feed their infant baby an edible. Hey man, it comes from Mother Earth. I think that those people should be arrested for child abuse, and I think that kid should be taken away from them.
And this is also for the betterment of kids in a general state. Thank God for that. We already went through all of this. Like, I just don't understand how, like, somebody can think, like, we can all be on the same page that, like, a kid shouldn't get a tattoo. Like, a kid at 6 years old probably shouldn't get a tattoo. Now, I guarantee you that there are kids that at 6 years old wanted to get a tattoo, and then at 21, they got a tattoo. So they wanted it their whole life.
I am one of those people. At 6 years old, I wanted to get a tattoo. I don't know if I was exactly 6, but I was young. I saw that, like, The Undertaker and all these wrestlers had tattoos. I'm like, I want one. And my parents said no. And at the time, I was like, oh, man, I want a tattoo. I am so glad. I am so glad that they told me no and didn't affirm me. Oh, this is just him expressing his identity. I cannot even begin to tell you. Because back when I was 6, the things, or 6 or 8 or 9 or however old, but the things that I found cool back then, I don't find cool anymore. So I probably would have gotten something stupid like a dragon or something and been mortified today. I mean, it's just terrible.
And they got the tattoo. That's right. But that doesn't mean that just because of that, and people giving like their opinions on it, doesn't mean you get to go back and do it. Yeah, uranium mines, I know. Why not? Let them drive a car too. Despite endless lies from turf, puberty blockers are safe, reversible, and have less lasting side effects than giving no treatment would have.
This is bullshit. This is absolute grade A bullshit. This is why these people get so much hate. Not only are they promoting misinformation. They're doing it at kids. They're doing it at kids. They are willing to ruin your kid's life so that they can virtue signal and feel good about themselves. There is no depth of hell low enough for these people.
How could no treatment have side effects? What?
What they're saying is no treatment is basically the same as letting them end their own life. That's what they're saying, which isn't true. The numbers don't bear that out. The numbers don't bear that out, that it improves, the transition and affirmation, all this stuff improves the numbers at all, because they don't. Because they don't. And by the way, let me just talk about statistics for a second. Throughout history, if it's the case that denial and rejection of transgenderism leads to like this epidemic of offing yourself in Minecraft, well then throughout history there would be this very odd, staggering statistic of people ending themselves, but they didn't. But they didn't. This is a social contagion. This is a mental illness problem. And it needs to be identified and treated as such. This is not a society problem per se. It's a leftist, left-wing, breaking free from the internet and infecting everyone involved sort of thing. This is not a natural progression or a naturally progressing thing. This is something that is manufactured. It is a artificial leftist thing. And if you want me to put on my conspiracy theory hat, I think that this was created because Wall Street was terrified of Occupy Wall Street. And I think this sort of stuff started to creep its way in because these people were scared shitless of Occupy Wall Street. And they decided, you know what's more important? We're going to divide people along their racial and gender lines. Now, don't get me wrong. This stuff had already been there. In fact, Tim Pool did a pretty good video talking about how when he got through, Occupy Wall Street a bit, eventually he got to the point where these people were basically separating into groups and doing all this weird shit. This DEI woke stuff. But I think that they used that as a weapon because they were terrified of Occupy Wall Street and the momentum that it was getting. I didn't support Occupy Wall Street at the time because it's a bunch of leftist retards promoting bullshit, but the sentiment about sticking up for the working man against Wall Street, I'm all for that. I think that's great.
What the hell are you talking about? Transitioning saves lives. Transitioning earlier means being able to transition more successfully. Well, let me go. Well, let's think about this in the right way. So if transitioning saves lives and transitioning earlier is better, and you think gender identity develops around 3 to 5, should 3-year-olds be getting transitioned?
That's a bingo. They do. Yes, they do. And in fact, Keffels was trying to instruct younger people how to make their own HRT in their bathtub without the approval or consent of their parents. How that person isn't in an El Salvadorian prison, which, by the way, I think I gotta say, it's such a funny meme because it riles people up. Of course, you're not going to send Keffels. Of course, you're not going to send Keffels to El Salvador. Keffels isn't from the United States. Canada affirms these people, and they worship them, even though they're criminals and absolutely disgusting.
Should 5-year-olds be getting transitioned?
That's a good question.
Uh-oh. That's an FBI moment. And it should be. Where do these people come from? He said, yes, by their logic. Yeah, by their logic. That's a weird thing to say. Why are these trans pushers so goddamn brain dead? I really feel bad for average, well-adjusted trans people. And before you go and start making like negative statements, I'm not transphobic. You can go and
Well, you don't have to be transphobic. I'm just saying that normal, well-adjusted trans people. Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh, yeah. No, it doesn't exist. It's not real. And some people can say Blair White, but no, no. Listen, no. Blair White is not normal and well-adjusted.
and keep in mind, I say this before I say it again. Try to find me a situation in my whole fucking life. I've been on the internet my whole fucking life where a gay person, a trans person, or anyone with a different gender identity ever had a bad experience with me in their fucking life.
Yeah, and I understand. He's got to say this. He's on Twitch. Oh, he's on Twitch. Yeah, he's on Twitch. He's got to. No, guys. Hey, I'm only saying this out of care. No, most trans people are good, great, normal. Did it say normal? They're normal. Yeah, Yeah, I understand. And that's good. No, I genuinely think that's good. I can say the same thing. Well, maybe one incident. I had a trans person in my school. Um, it was, yeah, it was almost. If I told you the story, it almost sounded like a joke, like I was making fun, like I was making it up because it's so ridiculous. But no, there was this big black person, and yeah, I mean, like when I say big, I'm not talking about fat. They look like they could be like an offensive lineman for the Raiders. Like they're big, and they'd come in, and they were trans. I am trans. I'm, I'm not going to say their name, but yeah, no, they come in with the dress, and it was like, oh my god, like so. I think there was actually two of them, and yeah, no, I never really had a bad encounter with them. They were fine, but they were, yeah, it was it was something else. I think I maybe had one bad encounter because they were acting. They were just acting rambunctious or obnoxious, and so yeah, it's. I think there was just one time though that I had an issue, but otherwise, but yeah, there's nothing normal about that. It was weird. It was obviously weird. And everyone knew it, but they pretended like they didn't. Like, oh yeah, that's just That's how I know it's not normal. There is something weird about it, and everyone can pick up on it. Now he's saying that, oh yeah, I've always treated them good. Good. No, it's good. There's no need to be rude. There's no need to tear people down unless they're promoting puberty blockers for kids.
You won't. Because that's not how I am. It wasn't how I was whenever I was a kid even. Zero. It's fucking zero. I don't.
All right. I mean, that's.
It's crazy. It's giving trans adults a bad name. Yes, exactly. Like you guys know, like I'm a trans person or anyone with a different gender, zero. I don't have problems like that with people. I never have. Virtue signors that are using their cause as a soapbox to push an ideology that 90% of people think that you're a fucking pedophile for. What are we talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel bad for them because they're going to lose their rights. They're like trans people are getting a ton of hate because of these fucking freaks. These people that want to say gender identity develops around the age of 3 to 5 and transitioning earlier is the reason why that's better, right? I mean, you put 2 and 2 together, that's it. Child abuse where they cross the line. Yeah, exactly. LGBT are sick of the TQ plus. The normal T is sick of this insane T. What I'm saying is that.
See, he's trying to rehabilitate the LGBT community, and people are calling him right wing. it really is shocking the way that they just have no concept of reality. He's doing more work to try to normalize the LGBT community than anyone else I've seen. Now, it's not going to work because it's not true, but he's obviously coming at this from a place of wanting to help people. The reality is that no, this isn't normal. No, it's most of the teas are no. It was Dave Chappelle who talked about his friend Daphne during his stand-up. His trans friend who was bullied into ending themselves by the trans community because they stood up for Dave Chappelle while everyone was coming after him because of his issue with the trans community. And that's sort of the problem, is that every incident, every one for years, hundreds and hundreds of incidents, they've all been negative. There's not been one positive incident. And even in this video, somebody asked him, like, hey, do you know anyone in the trans community, like any incident in the trans community where it was actually like positive, where somebody did, and he goes, well, privately. But I can't tell you their name. I can't tell you the incident. Because the answer is no. No, the majority of the time, it's not trans people coming together to support this really awesome game because it's a great thing. No, it's usually about their transgenderism, and it's usually propping up something genuinely awful because it's something that, spits in the eye of tradition and decency and morality and sanity and logic. It's like, hey, let's make Assassin's Creed Shadows. Oh, we're gonna have the first, gender non-conforming sumo wrestler. It's like all of this stuff accumulates, and now we're at the point where the culture has shifted, and it's all a result of the transgender movement not pushing back on this because there is no one to push back because the majority of them are awful. I'm sorry, but it's the truth. Asmon knows it's the truth. He's not going to say it. He doesn't want to say it. I understand it. But the majority of people listening to this understand that I'm right. That the trans community is awful. The worst. Disgusting. And there are a few good people, unfortunately, that get caught up in that. Just like there are a few good people that unfortunately get caught up in the mass deportations. But the Democrats, once again, have allowed a problem to fester to such a degree that the due process is basically thrown out the window because we have a problem to deal with. And when you're dealing with a problem at this stage, where it's wormed its way in, where it's done as much damage as it has, the minor rules and, acts of decorum, those are no longer going to be followed. And this is something that I've been warning about for a long, long time. That always, 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 at the end of the so-called good intentions of Democrats, is pain and misery and suffering. Always. These people are the worst. You look at California. Look at California. What are shopkeepers having to do? They're having to raise their price of candy bars to $951 because the minimum that they're willing to prosecute is $950. And so you can go pick up a candy bar, take it to the front desk, and then they'll give you a coupon so that it actually goes back down to the regular price. That's in Democrat cities. That's what they're having to do because the problem has been allowed to fester. The police don't get involved. Asmongold reacted to UC Davis. Asmon, when I lived in California, that was the norm. In fact, I thought that whole ordeal was pretty tame. I'm surprised the police even bothered staying there as long as they did. They don't do anything. They can't do anything. They can't chase people down. And unfortunately, the end result of Democrat incompetence and negligence and mental illness is that the few people that are actually good, decent people get caught up with it. But unfortunately, there's nothing else that we can do. Because the problem is so severe and it's been so destructive that we have to take more extreme measures, which is outlawing transgenders from competing in sports, which is the government is now officially recognizing male and female only. Now, that's just the start of it. There's going to be more to come. But that is because this group of people did not push back against the more just unnatural elements. They fought back against parents who wanted to go to school board meetings because the stuff they were being taught in school for this LGBTQ stuff was absolutely disgusting. It was subhuman. It was gross. But all these people in positions of authority were promoting it and pushing it, and if you had a problem with it, then you were the problem. Well, guess what? Those people paid attention and they voted in Donald Trump as the president, and now all of these people, their entire ideology is being eviscerated. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think Asmongold deserves even an ounce of hatred his way for this one topic. I think that he got most of it right, even if some of the details I think he got wrong. I'm just proud that he's willing to openly state this, openly come out and say it, even if he has to do some apologetics and sort of tap dancing. I think that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly reasonable. And I'm excited to see where things go from here. Because if this sort of filth has been driven to the lowest point that it's been in a while, I think that's good. And let these people expose themselves. 3 to 5 years old for a kid. Yeah. Unbelievable. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.